The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched upward like the inside of a massive shell. Light from 3 artificial suns filtered through crystal panels in the ceiling and painted everything in soft gold. Representatives from 400 species filled the curved rows of seats that rose toward the distant walls. Some breathed oxygen. Others floated in sealed tanks of methane or ammonia. A few existed as energy patterns held together by magnetic fields. All of them had gathered on the neutral world of Vareth Prime to discuss matters of galactic importance. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the central speaking platform. She was a small figure in this vast space. Her formal black suit seemed plain compared to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by other representatives. Behind her, the Earth delegation consisted of only 6 people. They looked calm but tired, like travelers who had come a very long way knowing the journey would be difficult. Elena waited for the translation systems to synchronize. When the soft chime indicated readiness, she began to speak. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," she said, "humanity comes before you today with a warning. We do not offer this warning lightly. We have debated for months whether to speak at all, but recent events have forced our hand." A ripple of mild interest passed through the chamber. Humanity had been a member of the galactic community for 60 years now. In that time, they had earned a reputation as traders and artists. Their music had spread to dozens of worlds. Their literature was studied by species who found human emotional complexity fascinating. But in matters of military strength or political influence, humans were considered minor players at best. The Cathari section of the chamber stirred with obvious amusement. They were tall beings with gray skin stretched tight over angular skulls. Their eyes were large and dark, designed for the dim light of their homeworld. For the past decade, the Cathari Dominion had been expanding aggressively across the galactic rim. They had conquered 11 species and absorbed 37 independent worlds. Their fleet numbered over 12,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons. High Arbiter Zolvis sat at the center of the Cathari delegation. He was ancient by his species standards, nearly 400 years old, and he had built the Dominion through conquest and intimidation. When he smiled, which he did now, his thin lips pulled back to reveal rows of small pointed teeth. Elena continued despite the obvious mockery. The Cathari Dominion has moved 17 battle groups into positions surrounding human colonial space. They have refused our diplomatic communications. 3 days ago, one of their patrol vessels fired upon a human cargo ship in neutral territory. The crew of 42 was killed. She paused to let the translation systems catch up. Around the chamber, various species reacted in their own ways. Some showed concern. Others seemed bored. The Cathari delegation made no attempt to hide their satisfaction. Humanity formally requests that the Council intervene to prevent further aggression, Elena said. But we also wish to deliver a warning directly to the Cathari Dominion. High Arbiter Zolvith leaned forward slightly. His dark eyes glittered with anticipation. For 60 years, Elena continued, humanity has deliberately limited its military presence in this galaxy. We have maintained a fleet of approximately 200 vessels. We have avoided conflicts. We have focused on peaceful development and cultural exchange. Many of you have interpreted this as weakness. Laughter erupted from the Cathari section. Several other delegations joined in. The sound echoed through the massive chamber like waves breaking against rocks. Elena waited for silence. When it came, she spoke with a voice that carried no anger, only sadness. You have misunderstood us. We limited ourselves because we hoped to prove something to this galaxy. We hope to show that strength does not require aggression, that a species can be powerful without being cruel. We held back because we believed in a better way. Zolveth raised one long-fingered hand and was recognized by the council chair. He stood slowly, making a show of his height and physical presence. "The human speaks of holding back," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Perhaps she does not understand mathematics. 200 ships against 12,000. This is not holding back. This is simply being small." More laughter filled the chamber. Even some species who generally supported humanity joined in. The disparity was so obvious that Elena's claims seemed either delusional or desperate. Zolvath continued, "The Cathari Dominion does not threaten humanity. We simply expand to our natural boundaries. If human colonies happen to exist within those boundaries, that is unfortunate for the humans. Perhaps they should have built more ships instead of writing poetry." The Cathari delegation erupted in applause. Their representatives stomped their feet against the floor in a traditional display of approval. Elena remained still at the speaking platform. She did not react to the mockery. When silence returned, she spoke again. "I ask that this warning be entered into the official council records. Humanity has informed the Cathari Dominion that we are holding back. We have informed this council of the same. If the Dominion continues its aggression, we will be forced to respond. The nature of that response will surprise many of you." The council chair, an ancient being from a species that resembled floating jellyfish, pulsed with soft light to indicate agreement. "The warning will be recorded as requested. Does the human delegation wish to add anything further?" Elena looked around the chamber. Her gaze moved slowly across the assembled species. Some met her eyes. Others looked away. The Cathari stared at her with open contempt. "Only this," she said quietly. "We hoped it would not come to this. Remember that we gave you the choice." She stepped down from the speaking platform. The Earth delegation gathered their materials and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence that had fallen over parts of the chamber. Something in Elena's final words had carried a weight that some representatives found unsettling. Zolvath watched them go. His smile had faded slightly. For just a moment, he had seen something in the human ambassador's eyes that troubled him. Not fear, not desperation. Something closer to pity. He pushed the thought aside. Humans were prey animals who had somehow developed technology. Their warnings meant nothing. In 3 weeks, his forward fleet would arrive at their colony world of New Meridian. The annexation would be swift and painless, assuming the humans cooperated. If they resisted, it would simply be swift. The council session continued with other business. Trade disputes, navigation rights, the endless small matters that kept the galaxy functioning. By the time the session ended, most representatives had forgotten about humanity's warning entirely. Elena Vasquez returned to her quarters in the diplomatic sector. She stood at the window and looked out at the alien city spread below. Towers of crystal and metal rose toward the sky. Vehicles moved through the air in orderly streams. Billions of beings went about their lives, unaware of what was coming. Her communication device chimed. She answered it and found herself looking at a face she knew well. Secretary General David Okonkwo of Earth appeared tired but resolute. "The council rejected intervention?" he asked. "They didn't even vote on it," Elena replied. Zolvath turned the whole session into a joke. "They think we're bluffing." David nodded slowly. "We knew this was possible. We prepared for it." "I know. That doesn't make it easier." "No, it doesn't." He was quiet for a moment. "Elena, I'm authorizing Phase 1. The Cabinet voted unanimously. The Security Council confirmed it an hour ago." Elena closed her eyes. For 60 years, humanity had worked toward a different future. They had believed that patience and goodwill could change the galaxy. They had hidden their true capabilities in the hope that they would never need them. That hope had died today in a chamber full of laughter. "I understand," she said. "I'll return to Earth immediately, Elena. David's voice softened. You did everything you could. We all did. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. After the call ended, Elena remained at the window for a long time. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the Cathari fleet was moving toward New Meridian. They expected to find a helpless colony protected by a handful of outdated ships. They would find something very different. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a facility that appeared on no map, ancient vault doors began to open for the first time in decades. The sound of massive machinery echoed through kilometers of tunnels. Lights flickered to life in hangars that stretched beyond sight. Humanity had warned the galaxy they were holding back. The galaxy had not listened. Now they would learn. New Meridian was a beautiful world. Its oceans were a deep purple color due to unique mineral content, and its continents were covered in forests of trees that grew hundreds of meters tall. 3 million humans called it home. They had built their cities among those great trees, creating communities that seemed to float in a sea of green. Colonial Governor Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the Capitol building and watched the sky. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador Vasquez delivered her warning to the Galactic Council. 3 weeks of preparation. 3 weeks of waiting. The wait was over. Sir, his aide called from inside. Long-range sensors have confirmed. Cathari fleet dropping out of faster than light. 800 vessels. Marcus nodded calmly. His staff had noticed his strange composure over the past few weeks. He had not seemed worried despite the approaching threat. Some thought he was in denial. Others assumed he had simply accepted the inevitable. They were wrong on both counts. Begin evacuation protocols, Marcus ordered. Move all civilians to the underground shelters. I want the surface cities empty within 2 hours. The aide stared at him. Sir, the shelters can't protect against orbital bombardment. If they decide to, they won't. Marcus turned from the window. Trust me. Just get everyone underground. Across New Meridian, sirens began to wail. The sound echoed through the tree cities and across the purple seas. Millions of people moved in orderly fashion toward the shelters. There was fear, certainly, but also something else. A strange confidence that had spread through the colony in recent days. Whispers of hope. Rumors that something was coming. In orbit, the Cathari fleet arranged itself in a classic siege formation. 800 warships formed a sphere around the planet, ensuring that nothing could enter or leave without their permission. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of reducing cities to glass. Fleet Commander Vethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Dominion's Wrath. He was young for a Cathari commander. Barely 200 years old, but he had proven himself in 3 previous conquests. This one would be his easiest. Intelligence reports indicated that New Meridian had only a small defense force. Perhaps a dozen ships at most. Open communication to the colony, Vethkar ordered. Wide broadcast. The communication officer complied. Across New Meridian, every screen and speaker carried the commander's words. People of New Meridian, this world now belongs to the Cathari Dominion. You will surrender all governmental authority immediately. Your military forces will stand down and submit to processing. Civilians will remain calm and cooperate with Dominion authorities. Resistance will result in punishment. Cooperation will be rewarded. He paused, allowing the translation to complete. You have 1 hour to respond. Use this time wisely. The communication ended. Vethkar leaned back in his command chair and waited. This was the part he enjoyed. The waiting. The knowledge that prey had nowhere to run. The anticipation of the moment when they would finally break. 40 minutes passed. The tactical officer looked up from his console with a confused expression. Commander, we're detecting vessel signatures emerging from behind the colony's third moon. Vethkar waved one hand dismissively. The local defense force. How many? 12 ships, Commander. Soft laughter rippled through the bridge. 12 ships against 800. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Let them come, Vethkar said. We'll destroy them quickly and then begin the occupation. The 12 human vessels moved away from the moon's shadow. They were small compared to Kethari warships. Sleek and angular, painted in dark colors that made them difficult to see against the blackness of space. They flew in a tight formation, moving directly toward the Kethari fleet. Vethkar felt a small flicker of respect. These humans knew they were going to die, but they came anyway. It was foolish, but honorable in its way. All weapons, prepare to fire on my command, he ordered. Make it quick. They've earned a clean death. The tactical officer suddenly leaned forward. His large, dark eyes widened with something that might have been confusion or fear. Commander, I'm reading unusual energy signatures from the human vessels. Weapon systems of unknown configuration. Unknown? Vethkar sat up straighter. Explain. I cannot, Commander. The readings don't match anything in our database. The power output alone is... He stopped mid-sentence. His hands moved frantically across the console. Commander. They're firing. Light erupted from the lead human vessel. Not the familiar glow of plasma weapons or the flash of missile launches. This was something different. A beam of pure white that seemed to bend space itself as it traveled. It struck the nearest Kethari ship and simply erased it. One moment the vessel existed. The next moment it was gone, along with its crew of 3,000. Silence fell across the bridge of the Dominion's wrath. Every officer stared at their screens in disbelief. Then all 12 human ships fired at once. The beams moved in ways that should have been impossible. They curved around Kethari vessels, only to strike them from unexpected angles. They passed through shields as if they did not exist. Each beam destroyed its target completely, leaving no debris, no survivors, nothing but empty space where a warship had been. Vethkar found his voice. Return fire. All ships, return fire. The Kethari fleet unleashed everything it had. Thousands of plasma bolts and missiles shrieked toward the 12 human ships. The barrage was overwhelming, enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The human ships did not dodge. They did not need to. Shimmering fields appeared around each vessel. The Kethari weapons struck these fields and simply stopped. Plasma bolts hung frozen in space. Missiles lost their momentum and drifted harmlessly. Then, impossibly, the weapons reversed course. They flew back toward the Kethari ships that had fired them. What is this? Vethkar whispered. His voice had lost all confidence. What technology is this? No one answered. They were too busy watching their fleet die. The battle lasted 11 minutes. In that time, 340 Kethari vessels were destroyed or disabled. The human ships moved through the Kethari formation like predators among prey, striking with precision that seemed almost casual. They targeted weapon systems and engines, leaving many ships crippled but intact. Vethkar realized what they were doing. They were not trying to destroy his fleet. They were demonstrating that they could destroy his fleet but were choosing not to. All ships retreat. He ordered. Fall back to secondary coordinates. The surviving 460 Kethari vessels fled. They abandoned their siege formation and scattered into faster than light, not caring about maintaining order, only about survival. The proud invasion fleet that had come to conquer a helpless colony ran like frightened animals. The 12 human ships did not pursue. They simply held position, watching the retreat. On New Meridian's surface, the people emerged from their shelters to find their sky empty of threats. They looked up at the stars and wondered what had just happened. They had been told to trust, to believe that something would protect them. Now that trust had been proven right. But the full truth was still beyond their imagination. Across the galaxy, every species with advanced sensor technology had monitored the battle. The Council worlds, the independent systems, the rival empires, all of them had watched. They had seen 12 ships defeat 800. They had witnessed weapons that defied known physics and shields that laughed at conventional attacks. Within hours, the recordings spread everywhere. Analysts studied them and found their conclusions unbelievable. The technology gap between those human ships and the rest of the galaxy was not decades. It was not centuries. It was so vast that some experts refused to believe the recordings were genuine. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives who had laughed at Ambassador Vasquez now demanded answers. The Cathari Dominion, still reeling from the disaster, declared that humanity had launched a terror attack and demanded intervention. Ambassador Vasquez received word of all this aboard her transport ship, still 3 days from Earth. She read the reports and felt no satisfaction, only sorrow for what was still to come. Her communication device chimed with a priority message from Earth. Phase 1 complete, Secretary General Okonkwo reported. New Meridian is secure. Casualties on our side, 0. Fleet assets revealed. 12 vessels out of 43,000. Elena closed her eyes. The numbers were staggering. What the galaxy had seen was the smallest fraction of humanity's true strength. The Council is demanding explanations, she said. The Cathari are calling for war. Let them call for whatever they want. David's voice carried exhaustion and determination in equal measure. Phase 2 is authorized. When you reach Earth, you'll return to Verith Prime with the truth. They won't believe it. No, they probably won't. But they need to hear it anyway. The communication ended. Elena remained still for a long time, thinking about everything that was about to change. For 60 years, humanity had hidden in plain sight. They had pretended to be weak while building strength beyond imagination. They had hoped that they would never need to reveal themselves. That hope was dead. Now came the truth, and the truth would terrify everyone who heard it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council drew representatives from every corner of known space. Ships filled the orbital stations around Verith Prime until traffic control struggled to maintain order. The great chamber was filled beyond capacity, with observers crowding the upper galleries and overflow feeds broadcasting to millions of waiting vessels. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked to the speaking platform for the second time in a month. The reception was very different now. No one laughed. No one whispered jokes to their neighbors. 400 species watched her in absolute silence, waiting for answers that they desperately needed but feared to hear. High Arbiter Zolveth sat rigid in his seat. The confident predator who had mocked humanity weeks ago was gone. In his place sat someone who had received reports of the disaster at New Meridian. Someone who had watched recordings of Cathari warships being erased from existence by weapons that should not exist. Elena looked out at the assembly. She saw fear in many eyes, anger in others, confusion in most. She understood all of these reactions. What she was about to reveal would only make them worse. Honored representatives, she began. You have called this session to demand an explanation for what happened at New Meridian. You deserve that explanation. What you will hear will be difficult to believe. I ask only that you listen before you judge. She activated the holographic display system. An image of Earth appeared, floating above the speaking platform. The blue and green world rotated slowly, clouds swirling across its surface. 312 years ago, humanity developed faster than light travel. The silence broke into a wave of shocked murmurs. Species turned to one another in disbelief. Many began calculating dates. Humanity had officially joined the galactic community only 60 years ago. If what the ambassador claimed was true, they had possessed advanced technology for over 2.5 centuries before making contact. Elena waited for quiet to return. I understand your surprise. Let me explain. The holographic display changed. It showed a fleet of primitive human vessels leaving Earth's solar system. The design was crude compared to modern ships, but the drives that powered them were clearly faster than light. Our first journeys into the galaxy were voyages of exploration. We did not make contact with any species. We only watched and learned. What we discovered troubled us deeply. Images appeared in succession. HFY vessels bombarding a planet until nothing lived. A species called the Vorn executing prisoners by the thousands. Trade convoys carrying slaves from conquered worlds. Battle after battle after battle, stretching back through centuries of galactic history. We watched for decades, Elena continued. We saw empires rise and fall. We saw genocides and atrocities. We saw species exterminated for resources or simply because they were in the way. We saw what this galaxy was, and we had to make a choice. She paused, letting her words sink in. We could reveal ourselves and join this cycle of violence. Our technology was already more advanced than most species. We could have carved out an empire of our own. We could have become conquerors. The display showed Earth again. Or we could hide. We could pretend to be newcomers with limited capabilities. We could join the galactic community as a minor species and work slowly, carefully, to change things from within. Zolveth suddenly stood. His voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You expect us to believe that humans hid their capabilities for 3 centuries out of kindness? That you chose weakness when you could have had power? Not weakness, Elena replied calmly. Restraint. There's a difference. She changed the display again. Now it showed locations scattered across the galaxy. Asteroid fields. Gas giant atmospheres. The dark spaces between stars. Each location was marked with a symbol. For 300 years, we built shipyards hidden inside asteroids. Research stations floating in gas giant storms where no one would look. Manufacturing facilities and systems that appear empty on every star chart. We developed weapons and defenses that made our original technology look primitive. The display showed a number. 43,000. That is our current fleet strength. 43,000 vessels, each one equipped with technology that exceeds anything this galaxy has ever seen. The 12 ships that defended New Meridian were among our oldest and least advanced. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded to know if this was a threat. Others accused humanity of planning conquest. The noise became overwhelming. Elena waited. Eventually, the council chair restored order. Why reveal this now? The chair asked. If you wanted to remain hidden, why show your strength at all? Elena's expression was sad, because we hoped we would never have to. For 60 years, we worked within this council. We supported peace initiatives. We advocated for the rights of conquered species. We tried to show that cooperation was more profitable than conquest. We believed that eventually, the galaxy would change. She looked directly at Zolveth. Then the Cathari Dominion decided to expand into human space. We warned you. We told you that we were holding back. You laughed and continued your advance. You killed 42 people on that cargo ship. You sent 800 warships to enslave 3 million of our citizens. Her voice hardened. We gave you every opportunity to choose differently. You refused. So now you will learn what we have always been. Zolveth met her gaze. For the first time, his expression showed something other than arrogance or anger. It was the look of someone who had just realized the full scope of their mistake. "What do you want?" he asked. His voice was quiet now, stripped of its usual power. "We want what we have always wanted," Elena replied. "Peace, cooperation, a galaxy where species can grow and thrive without fear of conquest. We want to prove that strength can be used to protect rather than destroy." She turned to address the full chamber. "We are not your enemies. We never wanted to be. Everything we have done, including hiding our true capabilities, was an attempt to achieve peace without violence. That attempt has failed, at least where the Cathari Dominion is concerned." The display changed one final time. It showed a message in standard galactic script. "The Cathari Dominion has declared war on humanity. We will respond to that declaration. But we want this council to understand something important. We could destroy the Dominion in a matter of days. Our fleet could reduce every Cathari world to rubble before they even understood what was happening." She paused. "We will not do that. We will fight only until the Dominion chooses peace. We will target military assets, not civilian populations. We will offer surrender terms that preserve Cathari lives and dignity. We will be everything that the Dominion itself has never been to its victims." Silence held the chamber. Representatives exchanged glances, trying to process what they had heard. Humanity was not just powerful. They were powerful enough to destroy anyone they chose, and they were choosing to show mercy. Elena stepped down from the platform. "I have said what I came to say. The truth is now part of the official record. What happens next is up to all of you." She walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop her. No one knew what to say. On Earth, Secretary General David Okonkwo watched the broadcast from his office. The window behind him showed a night sky filled with stars. Somewhere out there, the hidden fleet was mobilizing. Ships that had waited in darkness for 3 centuries were finally moving toward the light. His communication officer appeared in the doorway. "Sir, the Cathari High Command has issued a formal declaration of total war. All their forces are being mobilized." David nodded slowly. He had expected nothing less. "And our response?" Admiral Chan reports full readiness. 8,000 vessels are positioned for the initial phase. The remaining fleet will hold in reserve. 8,000 should be more than enough." David turned from the window. "Send the order. Let's end this as quickly and cleanly as possible." The officer hesitated. "Sir, some of the cabinet members are concerned. They worry that once we reveal our full strength, other species might unite against us out of fear." "They might," David agreed. "That's why we're not revealing our full strength. We're showing them just enough to win, and we're winning in a way that no one can call tyranny. We're proving that power doesn't have to mean cruelty." He looked back at the stars. "We spent 300 years preparing for this moment, not because we wanted war, but because we wanted to show the galaxy another way. If they still choose to fear us after watching us show mercy to our enemies, then we'll deal with that when it comes." The order went out across secure channels. The human fleet began its advance. For the first time in 3 centuries, the full weight of Earth's hidden power was about to fall upon an enemy. But it would fall gently, precisely, and with more compassion than that enemy had ever shown to anyone. The Cathari military installation at Var Station was the largest in the Dominion. 1,200 warships were docked at its massive rings. Weapons platforms bristling with plasma cannons protected every approach. 2 million soldiers and crew called it home. For 3 centuries, it had been the symbol of Cathari power, the iron fist that held their empire together. Commander Drethaval stood on the central command deck and studied the tactical display. 6 days had passed since the disaster at New Meridian. 6 days since the universe had turned upside down. The Dominion had mobilized every available ship, bringing their total fleet to nearly 14,000 vessels. Intelligence estimated that humanity had revealed only a tiny fraction of their true strength. But surely, the full human fleet could not be much larger. Surely. "Commander," the sensor officer called out. "Multiple faster-than-light signatures detected. They're arriving at the edge of the system." "How many?" Drethoval demanded. The officer was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice trembled. "Over 2,000 confirmed. More arriving every second." The tactical display updated. Red icons representing human vessels appeared in a spreading wave around the system. They kept coming, more and more, until the display was nearly filled with them. "Current count exceeds 3,000, the officer reported. "No, 3,500. Still increasing." Drethoval gripped the railing in front of him so tightly that his joints ached. The human fleet outnumbered everything at Vareth Station by a factor of 3. And these were the ships that had destroyed 800 Kethari vessels in 11 minutes. "All vessels, prepare for combat," he ordered. His voice was steady, though he felt anything but calm. "All weapons platforms, maximum power. We will defend this station to the last." The human fleet finished arriving. 4,000 ships hung in space, their dark hulls reflecting the distant sun. They made no aggressive moves. They simply waited. A communication request appeared on the display. The identifying code was human. "They're hailing us," the communications officer said unnecessarily. Drethoval considered refusing. What was there to discuss? The humans had come to destroy them, just as the Dominion would have done in their position. He should die fighting, not talking. But something made him hesitate. The humans had shown strange behavior at New Meridian. They had disabled ships instead of destroying them. They had let survivors escape. Nothing in Kethari experience explained such restraint. "Put them through," he ordered. A human face appeared on the main display. She was older, with gray streaking her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of heavy burdens carried for many years. Her uniform marked her as a high-ranking officer. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the Human Defense Force," she said. "I am addressing all Kethari personnel at Vor Station." Drethoval stepped forward. "I am Commander Drethoval. You have come to destroy us. We will not surrender." Admiral Chun's expression did not change. "We have not come to destroy you, Commander. We have come to disable this station and remove it as a military threat. If you cooperate, there will be no casualties." Drethoval bared his teeth in what passed for bitter laughter among his kind. "No casualties? You bring 4,000 warships and promise no casualties?" "I promise that we will not kill anyone who does not force us to," Chun replied. "Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your defenses cannot stop our weapons. This is not a battle. It is a choice. You can choose to fight and die for nothing, or you can choose to stand down and live." The command deck had gone silent. Every officer was listening, waiting to hear their commander's response. Drethoval thought of everything he had been taught. Honor demanded resistance. Tradition demanded blood. The Dominion had always fought, always conquered, always proven its strength through violence. But what was the point of dying when it achieved nothing? What honor was there in throwing lives away against an enemy that could not be harmed? "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Power down your weapons. Dock all vessels. Evacuate non-essential personnel to the surface. We will disable your military systems and leave. Your people will live. Your families will see them again." The sensor officer suddenly spoke up. "Commander, I'm detecting 17 simultaneous attacks across Dominion space. Human fleets have appeared at all major military installations. 17 attacks at once. The coordination required for such an operation was staggering." The message was clear. Humanity could strike anywhere, everywhere, all at the same time. Drethoval made his decision. Perhaps it was cowardice. Perhaps it was wisdom. He no longer cared what others would call it. All vessels, stand down. Power down all weapons. Begin evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel. He turned back to Admiral Chun's image. We will not fight. But know this, human. The High Command will not surrender. They will throw everything against you. They will never accept defeat. Chine nodded slowly. We know. And when they see what happens here, when they see that we kept our word and let your people live, perhaps some of them will begin to wonder if there is another way. The next hour was surreal. Human vessels moved through Varus Station without firing a single shot. Small craft deployed to the weapons platforms and somehow disabled them without causing explosions or damage. The great rings that held warships went dark as power systems were shut down by methods the Cathari engineers could not understand. Drethoval watched it happen and felt something he had never experienced before. He felt grateful to an enemy for not killing him. Across Dominion space, similar scenes played out at all 17 targets. Some Cathari commanders chose to fight. Their fleets were disabled within minutes, their ships left drifting but intact, their crews alive but helpless. Most commanders, seeing the futility of resistance, followed Drethoval's example. In less than 2 days, humanity had neutralized over half of the Dominion's military infrastructure without killing a single person who was not actively trying to kill them. The news spread through the galaxy like fire. Species that had suffered under Cathari conquest watched in amazement. This was not how wars were fought. This was not how powerful species treated their enemies. Where was the bombardment of civilian worlds? Where were the mass executions meant to terrify others into submission? There was only precision, only restraint, only the promise kept. The Cathari High Command refused to accept reality. They gathered their remaining fleet of 12,000 vessels and sent them to crush the human colonies once and for all. If Varus Station could be taken, perhaps Earth itself could be threatened. Perhaps the humans would negotiate rather than risk their homeworld. The two fleets met in the empty space between stars. 12,000 Cathari warships faced 8,000 human vessels. By normal calculations, the Cathari had the advantage. Nothing about this war had followed normal calculations. The battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships moved in perfect synchronization, each one knowing exactly where every other one would be. They covered each other's blind spots. They coordinated fire with impossible precision. They dodged attacks that should have been impossible to see coming. The Cathari fought bravely. Their commanders adapted quickly, trying new tactics, seeking any weakness they could exploit. They found none. After 4 hours, the Cathari fleet had been reduced to 2,000 functional ships. They were surrounded, their weapons depleted, their shields failing. The human fleet held position around them, weapons powered but not firing. Admiral Chun broadcast to every ship in the Cathari fleet. "Your war is over," she said simply. "Surrender now and return to your homes. We will not pursue. We will not punish. This ends when you choose to end it." For a long moment, nothing happened. The Cathari commanders argued among themselves, their communications crackling with heated debate. Some wanted to make a final charge, to die with honor rather than accept defeat. Others pointed out that they had families, children, lives waiting for them. One by one, Cathari vessels powered down their weapons. One by one, they signaled surrender. High Arbiter Zolveth sat in his quarters on the Cathari homeworld and watched the reports come in. His fleet was defeated. His military installations were disabled. His empire, built through 3 centuries of conquest, had been dismantled in less than a month. And yeah, his people were still alive. His cities were untouched. His civilians had not been harmed. He activated a secure communication channel and waited. After a moment, Ambassador Elena Vasquez appeared on the screen. "Hi, Arbiter," she said. Her voice was neutral, neither triumphant nor angry. Zolveth had prepared many things to say. Defiant words, bitter accusations, promises of future revenge. But when he opened his mouth, different words emerged. "Why?" he asked. "You could have destroyed us completely. Your fleet could have turned our worlds to ash. Why did you hold back?" Elena was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because destroying you was never the point. We wanted to show you, to show the entire galaxy, that power does not have to mean cruelty. That strength can be used to protect rather than to dominate." She leaned forward slightly. 300 years ago, we looked at this galaxy and saw endless cycles of violence. We could have joined those cycles. We could have become the greatest conquerors the galaxy has ever known. Instead, we chose to wait, to prepare, to hope that we could find another way. Zolveth felt some 10 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Old alliances had crumbled. New ones were forming. And at the center of it all, humanity was doing something that confused everyone who watched. They were keeping their promises. The Galactic Council had reconvened in the Great Chamber on Varith Prime. The atmosphere was different now. Representatives still filled the curved rows of seats, but the old patterns of power had shifted. Species that had once dominated through military strength now found themselves uncertain of their place. Those who had been conquered or threatened suddenly had to protect their willing to stand against aggression. Ambassador Elena Vasquez took the speaking platform for what felt like the 100th time. But this session would be different. This session would shape the future of the galaxy. "Honored representatives," she began. "1 year ago, humanity revealed capabilities that we had hidden for 3 centuries. Many of you feared that we intended to become conquerors. Many of you expected us to establish an empire through force, as so many powerful species have done before us." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembly. She saw Kethari representatives sitting beside species they had once enslaved. She saw ancient rivals sharing the same diplomatic space. The war had taught everyone the old ways of doing things could change in an instant. We did not conquer. We did not enslave. We fought only until the aggression stopped, and then we withdrew. Some of you still do not believe our intentions. You think this is some long game, that we are merely waiting for the right moment to seize power. Elena allowed herself a small smile. You are welcome to believe that. Time will prove you wrong. But we did not call this session to defend ourselves. We called it to propose something new. The holographic display activated, showing a document in standard galactic script. The Meridian Accords. For 300 years, we watched this galaxy tear itself apart through cycles of conquest and revenge. Species rose to power through violence and fell when someone stronger came along. Empires built on fear always collapsed eventually, usually causing enormous suffering in the process. She gestured at the document. The Meridian Accords represent a different path. They establish mutual defense agreements that protect all signatories from aggression. They create intervention protocols that allow collective action against those who threaten galactic peace. They limit military buildups and establish transparent verification systems. The chamber stirred with interest and concern. Such agreements had been proposed before. They had always failed because powerful species saw no benefit in limiting themselves. I know what many of you are thinking, Elena continued. Such agreements only work if everyone follows them. The powerful have always ignored rules that do not suit them. Why would this time be different? She changed the display. It now showed a map of human military assets, shipyards, research stations, fleet positions. The sheer scale was staggering. Even after the war, most species had only vague ideas of humanity's true capabilities. Now they saw it clearly. Over 40,000 vessels. Technology centuries ahead of anyone else. Power sufficient to dominate the entire galaxy if they chose. This is why it will be different, Elena said. Humanity is formally committing to dismantle 40% of this infrastructure. Publicly, verifiably. We will allow Council observers to witness the decommissioning process. The remaining fleet will be registered with a new Galactic Security Council. Our movements will be transparent. Our capabilities will be known. Shock rippled through the chamber. Species exchanged disbelieving glances. No one in galactic history had ever voluntarily reduced their military strength. It went against every instinct, every lesson of survival. A representative from the Mithrani collective rose to speak. The Mithrani were cautious beings who had survived for millennia by never trusting anyone. Ambassador, why would humanity handicap itself in this way? What guarantee do you have that others will not take advantage of your reduced strength? Elena nodded at the question. First, even after the reduction, humanity will remain the most powerful military force in the galaxy. We are not making ourselves weak. We are making ourselves less overwhelming, less frightening to those we wish to work with. She took a breath before continuing. Second, and more importantly, our goal was never to rule. We hid for 3 centuries because we wanted to find a way to change this galaxy without conquest. We revealed ourselves because we had to protect our people. Now, we have a chance to actually achieve what we always wanted. A galaxy where strength is shared rather than hoarded. Where security comes from cooperation rather than domination. High Arbiter Zolveth rose from the Kethari section. The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered his mocking speech a year ago. Everyone wondered what he would say now. Zolveth had aged visibly in the past year. The confidence that had once radiated from him was gone, replaced by something more complicated. He moved slowly to a secondary speaking platform and faced the assembly. I once called humanity prey animals, he said. His voice was rough but steady. I believed that strength was the only truth in this galaxy. I believed that those who could not defend themselves deserved to be conquered. I was wrong. The admission hung in the air. From a Kethari High Arbiter, it was almost unthinkable. The humans could have destroyed my species, Zolveth continued. Our fleet was broken. Our installations were disabled. Our worlds were defenseless. Any other power in galactic history would have finished us. They would have bombarded our cities, executed our leaders, enslaved our survivors. It is what we would have done. He turned to face Elena directly. Instead, they let us live. They returned our prisoners. They helped us rebuild. They treated us with dignity we had never shown to anyone. Zolveth addressed the full chamber again. I have spent this past year speaking with those we once conquered. The Verith, the Malvani, the Sarati. I have seen what the Dominion did to them. I have seen the suffering we caused because we believed that power gave us the right. His voice dropped lower. The humans showed us that power can mean something else. Power can mean choosing not to harm when you have every ability to do so. Power can mean mercy. I did not believe this was possible. Now I have seen it with my own eyes. He straightened to his full height. The Kethari Dominion will sign the Meridian Accords. We will work with humanity and any other species that wishes to build something better than what we had. This is not surrender. This is learning. The chamber was absolutely still. Then, slowly, applause began. It spread through the assembly, growing until it echoed from the crystal ceiling far above. Species who had been enemies for centuries acknowledged that something fundamental had changed. The vote on the Meridian Accords passed with overwhelming support. Not every species signed immediately. Some remained suspicious. Some needed more time. But the foundation had been laid for something unprecedented, a galactic order based on cooperation rather than conquest. 3 months later, Elena Vasquez walked through a memorial on New Meridian. The monument had been built to honor all those who died in the brief war, including the Cathari soldiers who perished in the initial battle. Stone pillars bore the names of the fallen, regardless of which side they had fought on. A young girl walked beside her, perhaps 8 years old. She was the daughter of colonial governor Marcus Chun, who had trusted in humanity's hidden strength on the day the Cathari fleet arrived. "Ambassador," the girl asked, looking at the Cathari names on the pillars, "why do we have a monument for our enemies?" Elena knelt down to meet the child's eyes. "Because they were never really our enemies, Maya. They were just people who had been taught wrong lessons about what strength means. They thought they had to conquer us to be powerful. They were wrong, but that does not mean they deserve to die." Maya considered this with the seriousness that children sometimes bring to difficult questions. "So we built this to show them we're not angry?" "Partly," Elena agreed. "But mostly we built it to remind ourselves. Power is easy to misuse. When you are strong, it is tempting to hurt those who are weak. We built this monument to remember that being truly strong means choosing not to hurt, even when you can." The girl nodded slowly. She did not fully understand yet. She was too young. But someday she would. Someday all of them would. In the orbital station above Earth, the first Cathari diplomatic vessel had just docked. Cultural exchange officers from both species met in the arrival hall, uncertain but willing to try. It was a small beginning, but small beginnings were how great changes started. Somewhere in the galaxy, a species that had been building weapons for a war they thought was inevitable began quietly dismantling them. They had watched what happened to the Cathari. They had seen humanity's response. They had decided that perhaps there was another way after all. The galaxy would not change overnight. Old habits were deeply rooted. Suspicion would take generations to fade. But the first step had been taken.